prices, jobs, immigration. Industries being destroyed.
Support is being sent everywhere, but not here. When you think about how our schools look, that's really sad.
We professional hunters declare our solidarity with the farmers.
We can't cope with all the burdens from the government. It needs to change.
Most importantly, the government needs to resign and order new elections because they're incompetent.
Welcome to the day. We start here in Berlin, where thousands of tractors and trucks have converged on the German capital as angry farmers protest against cuts in agricultural subsidies and increasing regulation. Monday's rally concludes a week of protests, including the blockade of motorway on-ramps across the country. The demonstrations have tapped into a groundswell of dissatisfaction over cost of living increases in German society.
Trucks and tractors have already been blocking the streets of Berlin for more than a week. On Monday, around 10,000 farmers turned out, parking their vehicles in the centre of the capital to draw attention to their demands. They want more financial help from the government, otherwise they say farming is under threat. But for many protesters, this is about more than agriculture. Energy prices, jobs, immigration. Industry is being destroyed. We have to do something. It's no longer just about farmers and diesel. It's about everything. The government has to go. It's not just farmers who are joining in. It's almost a popular uprising. The government is not listening, and above all, it's not listening to the people in rural areas. If you wanted to be mean, you could say this politics favours urban areas while rural areas are being left behind, and we're protesting against this. When the German finance minister faced the crowd, he said farmers had to make a contribution in difficult times. But he outlined his position that the government cannot help with more cash. Subsidies for agricultural diesel will not expire immediately. They will be reduced step by step over the coming years. I can't promise you more state aid from the federal budget today, but we can fight together for you to enjoy more freedom and respect for your work. Lindner's words did not go down well. He was shouted down. Farmers' leaders called for the crowd to give the minister a hearing, but also restated their plan to keep protesting. If the government withdraws the plan to raise taxes, we will remove the tractors from the street. As long as they won't do that, we will continue to make use of our constitutional right to demonstrate. These noisy protests are becoming a problem for Olaf Scholz's government. If they are not willing to roll back their cuts, the farmers look likely to stay camped in Berlin for some time to come.
Well, that report from DW political correspondent Simon Young, who joins us now. Welcome, Simon. So the farmers are just the latest manifestation of unrest within Germany. Let's start with them. What do they want?
Well, Phil, the government is withdrawing hundreds of millions of euros worth of subsidies to agriculture. In particular, this is about the subsidies for diesel for farmers, but it's also, for instance, the government's withdrawing an exemption on road taxes for agricultural vehicles. They're also complaining about some other things like bureaucracy and environmental and animal welfare standards, for instance, which they say are too burdensome and make them uncompetitive. And all this at a time when farmers say it's becoming more and more difficult to make a living, and many farmers are in fact getting out of the business. So you've got these pretty angry protests, and farmers say unless all these plans for cuts from the government are withdrawn, they're just going to go on protesting. So you've got a stalemate, I think, at the moment.
Right, but the government did make some concessions, but clearly not enough for these farmers.
Well, they did. They've already said that they'll sort of smooth this over a bit. The diesel subsidies will be withdrawn over 3 years rather than immediately, and that might make it a little bit easier. They've also talked about introducing, for instance, a levy on the price of food to cover those kind of animal welfare standards, but it's hard to see how that really helps if it pushes up the price of food. The government's talked about introducing some reforms or changes to its plans by the summer. That probably, I think, will be too late. Now the coalition parties are saying they're going to get together and see if they can, come up with something that will appease the farmers even later this week. But given that the government has said, this is about saving money, there's a big hole in the national budget at the moment. Given the difficulties there, it's hard to see how they can really, give back very much, unless, of course, they say, right, we'll scrap the plans altogether and start with a new negotiation right from the beginning. But they don't look set to do that at the moment.
And tell us about these reports and rumours that many of these farmers' demonstrations have been infiltrated by Germany's far right.
Well, that's it. The Farmers' Union has said it's very concerned to make sure that that isn't the case. They say farmers are just exercising their democratic right to protest, and I'm sure that is true in the overwhelming number of cases. Having said that, as you saw in those clips, a lot of the people supporting these protests, are saying that this goes beyond farming, really. It's about wider issues like the cost of living that's making life difficult for people across Germany. It's about migration. It's about money being sent to support Ukraine.
Simon Young, a DW political correspondent. So how serious is the German government's proposal to cut agricultural fuel subsidies? Here's Karl Hallenbrock, who visited a dairy farm not far from Berlin, to find out.
Every machine on Peter Keim's farm in the Havelland district near Berlin is powered by a diesel engine. He manages a business with 1,000 hectares of farmland and 170 dairy cows. When he refuels his 5 tractors, it gets expensive. This tractor has a 480-litre tank. So far, he has received around 21 cents per litre as a refund from the government. We use 120,000 litres of diesel per year, so to us this diesel refund was worth around 25,000 euros. But the subsidy was supposed to be gradually reduced and discontinued by 2026. But Keim and other farmers don't want to accept that and are protesting nationwide, like here in the Havelland region. And they've had some success. The government is signaling to meet some of their demands, although for many it's not quite enough yet.
I see in our family how tough it is to keep our business running. And if you don't have additional income, it becomes increasingly difficult. If we lose the subsidy now, I really don't know how we'll make ends meet. The younger generation is afraid. Many are asking, will we even get a job later on if the law is implemented as planned? That's why I'm here to protest.
Agriculture subsidies are commonplace. German farmers receive around 300 euros from the EU budget per year and hectare. The diesel subsidy is just a small part of it, and yet every penny counts, say farmers. They fear they won't be able to compete internationally. Currently, only 3 EU countries have higher taxes on agricultural diesel than Germany, but 18 countries have lower taxes. German farmers feel disadvantaged. We produce our products, such as bread wheat, barley, winter rapeseed, at world market levels. There is a world market price. And if we have a production disadvantage due to the lack of diesel reimbursement, we cannot compete anymore. No future without us. That's what the farmers say. There are around 250,000 farms in Germany. Most of them have participated in the protests over the past few days.